one of the biggest gatherings of the finest minds in artificial intelligence is taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre. So some of the focuses of the AI Expo Africa 2022 is the role of artificial intelligence here in South Africa and how it could be used to the advantage of women and youth in the sector. To tell us a bit more about this, let's bring in the CEO and the founder of this expo. That's Dr. Nick Bradshaw, who joins us via our very link this morning. Doc, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us about what is undoubtedly an exciting gathering. But artificial intelligence is certainly an exciting innovation as well in technology. But I wonder what that means for a continent that's still dealing with something like the digital divide. How do you reckon that's landing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, what we're actually trying to do here at the event, as well as connect businesses with new suppliers of these new technologies, is actually make the event an inclusive event. So people that would have been traditionally excluded by, say, the price of the ticket, or even, for example, people who would not normally come to these events.
Sure.
Essentially, they'd have the ability to then come through our workshop program, for example. So we've got free workshops for the young people to join. But more widely, we are starting to now educate people about this in a much broader context, and there are multiple programs that people can join. And the word is getting out to people who would have been traditionally cut off from this before.
Mm. You know, whenever somebody hears artificial intelligence innovations, they'd probably think Silicon Valley type discussions taking place in very highly techno-connected communities. How far do you reckon AI is, developments around AI, on the continent and perhaps more specifically in this country?
Yeah, another good question. I mean, we actually published a report this year to actually answer that very question. So we released the State of AI in Africa report. It's available online, and we looked at the entire African continent to see where AI is being adopted. We looked at the companies providing those solutions, the size of those companies, the age of those companies. And actually what we found was a very healthy ecosystem across the continent. Obviously, some countries are more ahead than others. But the four leading countries across the continent are South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, and Nigeria. And even some of the smaller countries like Tunisia, Mauritius, Morocco are embracing the technology and creating trade associations, centers of excellence, for example. So it really has taken hold. And, when we ran the event in 2018, it was still fairly new. But definitely now the technology is here, and the bigger questions are, how do we make it inclusive?
Yeah.
How do we make sure it's fair for all?
Absolutely. Some of the questions I have, for instance, is also how do we ensure that the work that's been done in AI doesn't lead to any kind of unethical behavior, so to speak? And I'm sure you're familiar with the debate, right? I mean, how do we ensure that as we go about, breaking boundaries with these technological interventions, we are not, in some instances, blurring the lines of ethics because of the possibilities that exist here and how far really we can go?
Yeah, again, it's another great topic. I mean, I think 5 years ago, it was very much about, well, what can this technology do?
Yeah.
Pretty much now that's accepted, and we know that the vast majority of the industries that it can be used in. I mean, our analysis has shown that AI is being used in 120 plus different industry segments. But the bigger issues now are the softer issues, such as regulation, such as ethics, such as explainability, transparency. And those are the very questions that we're actually debating here at the Expo. And we've had multiple talks on regulation. We've got a law firm here who are working on that here in South Africa with various stakeholders. We've got various companies presenting on how to make AI safe, if you want to use that phrase, and so that we know what's going on under the hood, so to speak. So yeah, those are now the issues which are becoming a lot more important.
Yeah. I imagine, of course, the objective is also to solve some problems on the continent. Are you able to take us through perhaps some of those problems top of mind for you as this expo begins?
Yeah, I mean, we're on day 2 today. I mean, the opening keynote yesterday was from the UNITU, the International Telecoms Union. They run a massive program called the AI for Good program. And they're now much more active in the African continent through the work and the partnerships that we've established with them. So, I mean, AI is being used for things like disaster relief, resource management, agri-tech, looking at things like crop yields, for example, the way in which you can process satellite imagery to look at the differences and changes due to climate. So there's a very active community actually looking at that. It's not just AI for business that we talk about here. We do talk about and debate how AI can be used for good, both in society and for the citizen. And if anyone is interested in the Sustainable Development Goals and how AI can be used to address them, check out the ITU AI for Good program. It's actually very extensive.
Yeah. I mean, any space for solving, I don't know, something like an energy crisis, perhaps?
Yeah, we were impacted by, I think, stage 6 yesterday in traffic chaos.
Wow.
Unfortunately, AI is not the silver bullet solution for everything, if only it was. But certainly looking at, the way in which you can analyze, traffic movements, for example, also for things like forest fires, resource management, almost the use cases are endless, and there are new ones emerging all the time. For example, we've actually got an AI-generated art gallery at the event, and it's becoming a new creative tool.
Yeah, all right. Certainly exciting stuff. Well, all the best for what's remaining of the expo. Great chatting to you. Nick Bradshaw is the CEO and the founder of the AI Expo Africa. Really appreciate your time on the AM Report.